Captain Jake Morrison looked out the window of his ship at the empty space around them. The stars looked the same as always, cold and distant. He had been flying through space for 10 years, but he still felt small when he saw how big everything was. The ship Wanderer was not very impressive. It was one of only 12 deep spaceships that Earth owned. Most alien races had hundreds or thousands of ships. Some had so many ships they could not count them all. But Earth was different. Earth was weak dot at least. That was what everyone thought. Jake walked down the narrow hallway to the science lab. The ship was quiet, except for the soft hum of the engines. Most of the crew was sleeping. Space travel was boring most of the time. They would fly for weeks without seeing anything interesting. Dr. Lisa Harper was still awake, looking at her computer screen. She was the ship's science officer and the smartest person Jake had ever met. Her short brown hair was messy from running. Her hands threw it. She always did that when she was thinking hard about something. Find anything interesting out there? Jake asked. Lisa looked up from her screen. Her eyes were tired but excited. Actually, yes. Come look at this. Jake walked over to her computer. The screen showed a map of the space around them. There were small red dots scattered across the display. What am I looking at? He asked. Debris, Lisa said. Lots of it. The computer says it is metal, but not like any metal we know. It is scattered across a huge area, like something big exploded here. Jake felt his heart beat faster. Finding debris in space was always exciting. It usually meant they had found the remains of an old battle or a ship that had broken down. Sometimes they found technology they could study. How big was the explosion? He asked. Lisa touched a few buttons on her computer. The map changed to show the full size of the debris field. Jake whistled softly. The debris was spread across an area bigger than Earth's solar system. Whatever exploded here was huge, Lisa said. Maybe as big as a city, or bigger. Pirates? Jake asked. No, Lisa shook her head. Pirates do not have ships this big. This looks like military debris. Look at this. She pointed to one of the red dots on the screen. When she touched it, a picture appeared. It showed a piece of twisted metal floating in space. The metal was dark blue with silver markings. Jake felt cold when he saw the markings. He knew those symbols. Everyone in the galaxy knew them. Zephyrian, he whispered. The Zephyrian Dominion was the most powerful empire in the galaxy. They had been conquering other planets for 3,000 years. Their ships were huge and covered with weapons. Their soldiers were 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and skin like armor. They had never lost a war. No one fought the Zephyrians and won. Most planets surrendered before the fighting even started. Are you sure? Jake asked. Lisa nodded. The computer confirmed it. This debris came from Zephyrian ships. But Jake, look at how it was destroyed. She showed him more pictures. The metal pieces were not just broken. They looked like they had been melted or dissolved. The edges were smooth, like someone had used acid to cut through them. What kind of weapon does this? Jake asked. I do not know, Lisa said. I have never seen damage like this before. It is like the ships were unmade, not destroyed. Jake stared at the pictures. The Zephyrians had the best armor in the galaxy. Their ships could survive hits from nuclear weapons. But something had cut through their hulls like they were made of paper. How many ships? He asked. Lisa looked at her notes. Based on the amount of debris, I think it was a whole fleet. Maybe 50 ships or more. Jake sat down heavily in a chair. 50 Zephyrian ships was enough firepower to destroy a planet. What could possibly have destroyed them all? We need to collect some of the debris, he said. Earth Command will want to study it. Already done, Lisa said with a small smile. I sent out the collection drones an hour ago. They should be back soon with samples. Jake nodded. Lisa was always one step ahead of everyone else. That was why he liked having her on his crew. He walked to the communication room and sat down at the radio. Earth was very far away, but he could still send messages through the relay stations. It would take several hours for his message to reach Earth Command. Earth Command, this is Captain Morrison on the Wanderer, he said into the microphone. We have discovered a large debris field near the Andromeda border. The debris appears to be from destroyed Zephyrian ships, requesting instructions. He sent the message and leaned back in his chair. Now he had to wait. Earth Command would probably tell him to stay away from the debris and continue his mission. They were always careful not to make the Zephyrians angry, but Jake was curious. In all his years flying through space, he had never found anything this interesting. Who could destroy a Zephyrian fleet? And why had no one heard about this battle? The next morning, Jake got his answer from Earth Command. Admiral Pete Collins himself sent the reply. Captain Morrison, collect minimal samples and continue your survey mission. Do not spend more time in that area. Earth cannot afford to anger the Zephyrians over some old debris. Jake read the message twice. Old debris? The computers said the destruction had happened less than a month ago. This was not old at all, but orders were orders. Jake told his crew to finish collecting samples and prepare to leave. They had other star systems to explore. As the Wanderer flew away from the debris field, Jake looked back one more time. Somewhere out there was something powerful enough to destroy the most feared military in the galaxy. And no one seemed to care. Lisa came to stand beside him at the window. The samples are secure, she said. But Jake, I found something else in the computer records. What? This is not the only debris field like this. The computer found records of 3 other similar sites in the past 6 months. All Zephyrian ships. All destroyed the same way. Jake turned to look at her. Someone is hunting the Zephyrians. It looks that way, Lisa agreed. The question is who? And why has no one noticed? Jake did not have an answer, but he had a feeling this was just the beginning of something much bigger than a few destroyed ships. Something was changing in the galaxy. And Earth, the weak little planet that everyone ignored, might be right in the middle of it. Supreme Commander Thekmer stood in the command center of the largest ship in the galaxy. The bridge was huge, with screens covering every wall. Hundreds of Zephyrian officers worked at their stations, their 4 arms moving quickly over the controls. But today, the great ship felt empty and quiet. Fear had settled over the crew like a heavy blanket. Thekmer was 10 feet tall, with dark purple skin that looked like metal armor. His 4 eyes could see in directions that humans could not imagine. He had led the Zephyrian military for 50 years and had never known defeat. Until now. General Vex High approached the command platform. She was smaller than Thekmer, but just as dangerous. Her silver skin was covered with scars from 100 battles. In her lower hands, she carried a datapad with the latest reports. Supreme Commander, she said, her voice like grinding metal. We have lost contact with the 7th Fleet. Thekmer turned all 4 of his eyes toward her. When? 6 hours ago. They were patrolling the outer ring when their signals stopped. No distress call. No warning. They simply vanished. Thekmer felt something cold in his stomach. This was the 4th Fleet to disappear in 2 months. The 7th Fleet had 50 ships and 10,000 soldiers. They could destroy most planets by themselves. Send scouts to their last known position, he ordered. Already done, Supreme Commander. The scouts found debris. The same kind we found at the other sites. Thekmer closed his eyes. The debris was always the same. Twisted metal that looked like it had been dissolved rather than destroyed. No bodies, no survivors. No clues about what had attacked them. He walked to the main screen, which showed a map of Zephyrian territory. Red marks showed where fleets had vanished. The marks were scattered across different parts of the Empire with no clear pattern. What? Do our enemies know about these attacks? He asked. Vex-High consulted her datapad. Nothing, Supreme Commander. Our spies report that the other races are as confused as we are. Some think we are staging the attacks ourselves for unknown reasons. That almost made Thakmer laugh. Why would the Zephyrians destroy their own fleets? But he understood why other races might think so. The Zephyrian military was so powerful that most people could not imagine anything capable of defeating it. What? About our scientists? Have they learned anything from the debris? Chief Researcher Zalphys is waiting to speak with you, Vex-High said. Thakmer nodded. Zalphys was the smartest Zephyrian alive. If anyone could solve this mystery, it would be her. A few minutes later, Zalphys entered the command center. She was old, even for a Zephyrian, with white skin and tired eyes, but her mind was still sharp as a blade. Supreme Commander, she said, bowing slightly. I have studied the debris from all 4 attack sites. My findings are disturbing. Tell. Zalphys activated a hologram that showed a piece of ship hull floating in space. This metal came from the hull of a battleship. Our ships are made from quantum-bonded steel, the strongest material known to science. Nothing should be able to damage it. She touched a control, and the hologram zoomed in on the edge of the metal. But look at this. The metal has been broken down at the molecular level. The bonds between atoms have been severed cleanly. Thakmer stared at the image. What weapon can do this? That is the problem, Supreme Commander. No weapon in our database works this way. Energy weapons burn or melt. Kinetic weapons crush or tear. Chemical weapons dissolve slowly. But this is different. This is instantaneous molecular destruction. Could another race have developed new technology? General Vex-High asked. Zalphys shook her head. I have studied the technology of every known race. The humans are too primitive. The Altarians are too peaceful. The Kethvar are too focused on trade. None of them have the scientific knowledge to create such a weapon. Thakmer felt the cold feeling in his stomach grow stronger. Then what are we fighting? I do not know, Zalphys admitted. But I can tell you one thing. Whatever created this weapon understands our technology better than we do. The molecular destruction is specifically designed to work against quantum-bonded steel. It is like the weapon was made just to destroy our ships. The command center fell. Silent. Every Zephyrian in the room was thinking the same thing. Something out there knew their weaknesses and had built a weapon to exploit them. How long until this weapon is used against our homeworld? Thakmer asked. Unknown, Zalphys said. But Supreme Commander, I recommend we recall all fleets to defend the core worlds. If we continue to patrol our borders, we will lose more ships. Thakmer walked to the window and looked out at the stars. The Zephyrian Empire stretched across half the galaxy. Thousands of worlds paid tribute to them. Billions of soldiers followed their orders. But for the first time in 3,000 years, the Zephyrians were afraid. General Vex-High, he said finally, send orders to all fleet commanders. They are to abandon their current missions and return to the inner systems immediately. Sir, that will mean abandoning our conquered territories. Other races might rebel. Let them rebel, Thakmer said. Dead fleets cannot hold territory anyway. As the orders went out across the Empire, Thakmer remained at the window. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, an enemy was hunting his people. An enemy that could destroy fleets without warning and disappear without a trace. Meanwhile, light years away, Captain Jake Morrison was studying the debris samples in his ship's laboratory. Dr. Lisa Harper had been working for days, trying to understand how the Zephyrian ships had been destroyed. The metal shows signs of quantum disruption, she told Jake. Someone found a way to break the bonds that hold atoms together. It is like the ships were turned back into dust. Jake looked at the twisted piece of hull under the microscope. Could humans build a weapon like this? Lisa laughed, but there was no humor in it. Jake, we barely understand quantum physics. This weapon requires technology that is centuries ahead of anything on Earth. Navigation Officer Ryan Blake entered the laboratory with a concerned expression. Captain, I have been mapping the debris. Fields we have found. I think you should see this. He activated a hologram, showing the local section of the galaxy. 4 red dots marked the locations where they had found destroyed Zephyrian ships. At first, the attacks looked random. Ryan sighed. But when you connect the dots, a pattern emerges. He drew lines between the red dots. The lines formed a rough circle around a section of space near the galactic rim. The attacks are happening in sequence, moving from the outer edge toward the center. If the pattern continues, the next attack should happen here. He pointed to a star system on the edge of Zephyrian space. Jake studied the map. That system has a Zephyrian military base. If someone is hunting their fleets, that would be a logical target. Should we report this to Earth Command? Lisa asked. Jake thought about Admiral Collins and his message about not angering the Zephyrians. Earth's leaders were more worried about politics than mystery weapons. Not yet, he said. Let us see if Ryan's prediction is correct first. If another fleet disappears at that location, we will have proof that someone is systematically destroying the Zephyrian military. What Jake did not know was that his message about the first debris field had reached more than just Earth Command. Deep in the archives of Earth's capital city, Dr. Amy Rodriguez was reading his report with growing excitement. She had spent her career studying the ruins of ancient civilizations. Most people thought she was wasting her time, but Amy knew that the past held secrets that could change the future, and Jake Morrison's report reminded her of something she had seen before, something that had happened to other powerful empires. Throughout galactic history, Amy pulled up files that were thousands of years old, records from civilizations that had vanished without explanation. Each one told the same story. A powerful military empire that conquered many worlds. Then attacks on their fleets. Then silence. The pattern was always the same. And it was happening again. Dr. Amy Rodriguez sat in her small office surrounded by books and computer screens. The walls were covered with pictures of ancient ruins and dead civilizations. Most people thought her work was boring, but Amy loved solving puzzles from the past. Today, she was working on the biggest puzzle of her life. Captain Morrison's report lay on her desk next to files that were thousands of years old. The similarities were impossible to ignore. Throughout galactic history, powerful military empires had risen and fallen in the same pattern. First, they would conquer many worlds and build huge fleets. Then, mysterious attacks would begin to destroy their ships. Finally, the entire empire would vanish without a trace. Amy opened a file about the Korathi Empire, which had ruled the galaxy 5,000 years ago. They had been even more powerful than the Zephyrians. Their ships were the size of small moons, and their armies numbered in the billions. But in the span of just 2 years, the entire Korathi Empire had disappeared. The only clues were debris fields scattered across space, showing the same molecular destruction patterns that Captain Morrison had found. Amy pulled up another file about the Veltar Collective, which had existed 8,000 years ago. Same pattern. Powerful military, mysterious attacks, total disappearance. She had found records of 12 different empires that had met the same fate. Each one had been the dominant military power of its time. Each one had been destroyed by weapons that seemed impossible. Amy made herself a cup of coffee, and continued reading. In the oldest files, she found references to something called the Silence. Ancient texts described it as a force that came from the empty space between galaxies to remove threats to galactic peace. Most historians thought the Silence was just a myth, but Amy was beginning to think it might be real. Her computer beeped with an incoming message. It was from Helen Burke, a communications specialist who worked for Earth's intelligence service. Amy had asked Helen to monitor alien broadcasts for any information about the Zephyrian attacks. Dr. Rodriguez, Helen's message said, I have intercepted several urgent transmissions from the Zephyrian Dominion. They are recalling all their fleets to defend their core worlds. Something has them terrified. Amy smiled. The pattern was repeating exactly as it had throughout history. First confusion and fear, then retreat to defend the homeworld. But the retreat never worked. The ancient empires had all tried the same strategy, and they had all failed. Amy tried to call Earth Command to warn them about what was happening, but no one would listen to her. Admiral Collins's office said he was too busy to talk to historians about ancient fairy tales. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison was discovering that Ryan Blake's prediction had been correct. The Wanderer had traveled to the star system that Ryan had identified as the next target. They arrived to find another massive debris field. 57 ships, Dr. Lisa Harper reported as she analyzed the wreckage. The entire Eighth Fleet is gone. Jake looked at the navigation charts. The attacks were definitely following a pattern, moving in a spiral toward the center of Zephyrian space. Someone was systematically hunting down their military forces. Captain, Ryan said from his station, I am picking up long-range communications from nearby systems. The Zephyrians are abandoning their border colonies. They are pulling back to defend their homeworld. Jake nodded. The mighty empire that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years was retreating. But from what? Any sign of the attackers? He asked. Lisa shook her head. Nothing. Whoever did this disappeared without leaving any trace. It is like they were never here. Jake walked to the communication station and recorded a message to Earth Command. He detailed everything they had found and his theory about the systematic destruction of the Zephyrian military. This time, his message reached more than just Admiral Collins. Deep in Earth's government, people were beginning to pay attention to what was happening in space. Colonel Sam Harris read Jake's report in his secure office. Unlike most Earth officials, Sam understood the true significance of what Captain Morrison had discovered. But Sam also knew things that Morrison did not. Sam had been running a classified project for 20 years. A project so secret that only a handful of people knew it existed. And now, that project was about to change the galaxy forever. Sam picked up his secure phone and called his research team. Dr. Thompson, this is Colonel Harris. It is time to move to Phase 3. Dr. Carl Thompson, the lead scientist for Project Phantom, felt his heart race when he heard those words. Phase 3 meant their secret weapon was ready for full deployment. Are you sure, Colonel? Once we begin Phase 3, there will be no going back. I am sure, Sam said. The Zephyrians are finally taking notice. Soon, they will start investigating more carefully. We need to finish this before they discover the truth. Back on the Wanderer, Jake was trying to piece together the mystery. He had found 5 debris fields now, all showing the same impossible destruction. Someone was using a weapon that could dissolve Zephyrian ships at the molecular level. But who had such technology? And why were they hiding? Captain, Helen Burke's voice came over the ship's radio. I have an urgent message for you from Dr. Amy Rodriguez on Earth. Jake had never heard of Dr. Rodriguez, but any message from Earth was important. He accepted the transmission. Amy's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired but excited. Captain Morrison, I have been studying your reports about the Zephyrian attacks. I think I know what is happening. I am listening, Jake said. Throughout galactic history, powerful military empires have been systematically destroyed by an unknown force. The ancient texts call it the Silence. Every 2,000 or 3,000 years, when one empire becomes too aggressive, this force emerges to eliminate them. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. You think the Silence is real? I think someone or something is using that name to justify their actions, Amy said. But Captain, the important thing is that this has happened before. And every time, the targeted empire is completely destroyed. What can we do? Amy's expression became grim. Based on historical patterns, the Zephyrian Dominion has perhaps 6 months before it is completely eliminated. When that happens, there will be a massive power vacuum in the galaxy. Hundreds of conquered worlds will suddenly be free. Wars will break out everywhere. Jake understood. The collapse of the Zephyrian Empire would throw the galaxy into chaos. Millions of people would die in the wars that followed. Earth needs to be prepared, Amy continued. We may be weak, but we could play an important role in keeping peace after the Zephyrians are gone. After the transmission ended, Jake sat quietly in his captain's chair. He was just a ship captain who had stumbled onto the biggest mystery in galactic history. But somehow, he felt responsible for what happened next. Little did he know that the solution to the mystery was closer than he thought. Hidden in secret bases scattered across the galaxy, human ships were preparing for their next attack on the Zephyrian fleet. Ships that used technology far more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ships crewed by humans who had spent their lives preparing for this moment. The Zephyrians were right to be afraid. But they would never guess that their greatest enemy was the weak little planet they had always ignored. Earth was not the victim in this story. Earth was the Silence. Dr. Amy Rodriguez could not sleep. She had been working for 3 days straight, trying to solve the mystery of the Zephyrian attacks. Her office was a mess of old books, computer printouts, and empty coffee cups. But tonight, she had finally found what she was looking for. Deep in Earth's classified archives, she had discovered a file that should not exist. Project Phantom. The file was so secret that it took her government clearance and 3 different passwords to access it. What she read made her hands shake. Project Phantom was a military program that had been running for 23 years. It had started just 2 years after Earth's first contact with the Zephyrian Dominion. The project's goal was simple but terrifying. Find a way to destroy the most powerful military in the galaxy. The file contained technical details that Amy did not understand. But the conclusion was clear. Human scientists had developed weapons that could break apart matter at the quantum level. Weapons that could make entire ships disappear without a trace. Amy read the names of the people involved in the project. Colonel Sam Harris was the military commander. Dr. Carl Thompson led the research team. There were dozens of other names, all sworn to absolute secrecy. But the most shocking part was the mission reports. For the past 6 months, human ships had been attacking Zephyrian fleets, using weapons that the galaxy thought were impossible. Earth was the Silence. Amy sat back in her chair, trying to process what she had learned. The weak little planet that everyone ignored had been secretly destroying the most feared empire in history. She picked up her phone to call someone, then stopped. Who could she tell? The project was classified at the highest levels. Just reading the file was probably a crime, but people needed to know the truth. Captain Morrison was out there, risking his life to investigate attacks that his own species was carrying out. Before Amy could decide what to do, her office door opened. A tall man in a military uniform walked in. His name tag read Colonel Harris. "Dr. Rodriguez," he said in a calm voice. "We need to talk." Amy's heart pounded. "I was just doing research on ancient civilizations. I did not mean to find anything classified. Colonel Harris sat down across from her desk. He was older than she expected, with gray hair and tired eyes, but he did not look angry. Actually, Dr. Rodriguez, we have been hoping someone like you would find us. Project Phantom needs a historian. I do not understand. The ancient texts you have been studying, Harris said, the references to the silence. Those are not myths. They are historical records of previous operations. Amy stared at him. You mean humans have been doing this for thousands of years? Not humans specifically, Harris said. But yes, there has always been a force working to prevent any single empire from dominating the galaxy. Sometimes it was an advanced alien race. Sometimes it was a coalition of peaceful species. And sometimes it was a planet that everyone thought was weak. Harris activated a hologram projector on Amy's desk. The image showed a star map with hundreds of red dots marking destroyed fleets. We have been preparing for this mission since we first learned about the Zephyrians, he said. Our scientists studied captured Zephyrian technology and found ways to turn their own strengths against them. The quantum steel that makes their ships so strong? We learned how to make it fall. But why keep it secret? Amy asked. If Earth has this kind of power, why pretend to be weak? Because being weak is our greatest advantage, Harris explained. The Zephyrians ignore us. Other alien races dismiss us. No one suspects that the primitive humans could threaten anyone. Amy looked at the star map. The red dots formed a clear pattern, moving in a spiral toward the center of Zephyrian space. How many of their ships have you destroyed? Approximately 400 so far, Harris said without emotion. We estimate that represents about 40% of their total military force. And no one knows it was Earth? No one except the people in this room. Our ships are invisible to conventional sensors. Our weapons leave no traces except molecular destruction. As far as the galaxy knows, the Zephyrians are being attacked by ghosts. Amy stood up and walked to her window. Outside, she could see the lights of Earth's capital city. It looked so normal, so peaceful. No one down there knew that their planet was secretly the most powerful military force in the galaxy. What happens when the Zephyrians are gone? She asked. That is where we need your help, Harris said. History shows that the collapse of a major empire creates chaos. Wars break out. Innocent people die. We need someone who understands the historical patterns to help us maintain peace. Amy turned back to face him. You want me to join Project Phantom? We want you to help us finish what we started. The Zephyrians are already retreating to their core worlds. In a few more months, their empire will be completely destroyed. When that happens, Earth will need to step forward as a guardian of galactic peace. Amy thought about Captain Morrison and his crew, investigating attacks that they could never understand. They were good people, trying to solve a mystery that their own government had created. What about the people who do not know? She asked, like Captain Morrison. He is risking his life to investigate these attacks. Harris nodded. Captain Morrison is actually very important to our plans. His investigation has brought him close to discovering one of our secret bases. We need someone to approach him and his crew to bring them into the project. You want to recruit them? We want to tell them the truth. Morrison is a good captain with a loyal crew. We will need people like them when we reveal Earth's true role in the galaxy. Amy looked at the star map again. The pattern of destruction was beautiful in its precision. Every attack had been carefully planned to maximize damage to the Zephyrian military while minimizing the risk of discovery. How long do you think it will take, she asked, to destroy the remaining Zephyrian fleets? Perhaps 3 months, but they are getting desperate. Our intelligence suggests they are preparing to use their ultimate weapon. What ultimate weapon? Harris's expression became grim. The Starforge. It is an ancient superweapon capable of destroying entire solar systems. If the Zephyrians activate it, they will likely target Earth first. Amy felt cold. Can your weapons stop something like that? We think so. But we will need to coordinate attacks from multiple bases simultaneously. And we will need Captain Morrison's help to ensure all our forces are in position. Amy made her decision. The secret had been kept long enough. It was time for the truth to come out. What do you need me to do? Colonel Harris smiled for the first time since entering her office. Pack your bags, Dr. Rodriguez. We are going to take a trip to intercept the Wanderer. It is time to tell Captain Morrison and his crew who they are really working for. As Amy gathered her research materials, she thought about the ancient texts she had studied. The silence had always been described as a force of nature, something that appeared when the galaxy needed protection. But now she knew the truth. The silence was not a natural force. It was the result of careful planning by people who cared more about galactic peace than personal glory. People who were willing to be seen as weak so that others could be safe. People like her. Captain Jake Morrison was studying star charts when his communication officer announced an incoming ship. The vessel was small and fast, with Earth military markings. Jake had not been expecting any visitors. "This is Colonel Sam Harris requesting permission to board," came the transmission. Jake had heard that name before, but he could not remember where. "Permission granted, Colonel. Docking Bay 2. An hour later, Jake met Colonel Harris and Dr. Amy Rodriguez in the ship's conference room. Dr. Lisa Harper, Ryan Blake, and Tony Martinez were also present. Harris had insisted that the entire senior crew attend the meeting. "Captain Morrison," Harris began, "what I am about to tell you is classified at the highest levels of Earth government. Everything you have discovered about the Zephyrian attacks is connected to a secret operation that has been running for over 20 years. Jake felt his stomach drop. "You know who is destroying the Zephyrian fleets?" "We are destroying them," Harris said simply. The conference room fell silent. Lisa's mouth fell open. Ryan dropped his datapad. Tony stared at Harris like he had grown. "A second head. That is impossible," Lisa said finally. "The weapons technology required is centuries beyond anything Earth possesses." Dr. Rodriguez opened a briefcase and pulled out a thick file. "Dr. Harper, you are correct that this technology is beyond normal Earth science. But Earth has been preparing for this mission since our first contact with the Zephyrians." She spread photographs across the table showing twisted pieces of alien metal. "You have been analyzing the debris from our attacks. But you have only seen the results, not the weapons themselves." Harris activated a hologram projector. The image showed a sleek black ship unlike anything Jake had ever seen. It was smaller than the Wanderer, but looked far more advanced. "This is the Ghost Ship Alpha," Harris said, "one of 12 invisible vessels that have been systematically destroying Zephyrian fleets. The ships use quantum destruction weapons that can dissolve matter at the molecular level." Jake stared at the image. "How is this possible? Earth barely has a space navy." "The space navy you know about is what we want other species to see," Harris explained. "Project Phantom has been developing advanced technology in secret. We studied captured Zephyrian equipment and learned to turn their strengths into weaknesses." Dr. Rodriguez placed another document on the table. "Captain, the attacks you have been investigating are part of a historical pattern. Throughout galactic history, someone has always stepped forward to prevent military empires from becoming too powerful." "The silence," Jake whispered, remembering her previous transmission. "Exactly. And now it is Earth's turn to be the silence." Tony Martinez picked up one of the photographs. As the ship's engineer, he understood technology better than most. The molecular damage patterns. "I have never seen anything like this. How did you develop such weapons?" Harris smiled. We had help. 25 years ago, we found the wreckage of an ancient ship buried on Earth's moon. The technology inside was thousands of years old, but still functional. We reverse engineered it and combined it with our own quantum research. Whose ship was it? Ryan asked. We think it belonged to the previous guardians of the galaxy, Doctor. Rodriguez said, the species that served as the silence before us. They left their technology behind when their time ended, waiting for the next guardians to find it. Jake tried to process everything he was hearing. Earth, the weak planet that everyone ignored, was actually the most powerful military force in the galaxy. And they had been using that power to secretly protect everyone else. Why tell us now? He asked. Harris's expression became serious. Because the Zephyrians are getting desperate. Our intelligence indicates they are preparing to activate the Starforge, an ancient super weapon capable of destroying entire solar systems. Lisa paled. They are going to attack Earth? Most likely. They know someone is hunting them, and Earth is the only nearby planet with any kind of space presence. They will assume we are behind the attacks. But we are behind the attacks, Tony pointed out. Yes, but they do not know that yet, Harris said. When they activate the Starforge, we will have perhaps 6 hours before it can fire. We need to destroy it before that happens. Jake looked around the table at his crew. They all seemed to be in shock. What do you need from us? The Starforge is protected by the remaining Zephyrian fleet, Harris explained. Our ships are powerful, but we cannot penetrate their defenses alone. We need your help to coordinate the attack. Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward. Captain, in a few hours, you will receive an emergency transmission from Earth Command. The Zephyrians will have issued an ultimatum demanding that Earth surrender whoever is responsible for the attacks. Admiral Collins will be panicking. What will happen then? Then Earth will officially reveal the truth, Harris said. We will announce to the galaxy that we have been protecting them from Zephyrian aggression. Project Phantom will become public. Knowledge. Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, space looked peaceful and empty. But he now knew that hidden ships were moving through the darkness, carrying weapons that could reshape the galaxy. If we do this, he said slowly, everything changes. Earth will no longer be seen as weak. That is correct, Harris agreed. But Earth will be seen as something more important. We will be seen as protectors. Ryan Blake had been quiet throughout the meeting, but now he spoke up. Colonel, what happens to the conquered worlds when the Zephyrian Empire falls? That is an excellent question, Dr. Rodriguez said. Historical patterns suggest there will be chaos at first. Some worlds will try to build their own empires. Others will be attacked by neighbors seeking revenge. We estimate that without guidance, the collapse could result in galactic war lasting centuries. So we become the new rulers? Lisa asked. No, Harris said firmly. We become guardians. Earth will help maintain peace, but we will not conquer or rule. That is what makes us different from the Zephyrians. Jake's communication device beeped with an incoming message. He looked at the display and felt his heart race. It was an emergency transmission from Earth Command. Captain Morrison, Admiral. Collins's voice sounded panicked. Return to Earth immediately. The Zephyrians have issued an ultimatum. They claim we are responsible for attacks on their fleets. They are giving us 24 hours to surrender the guilty parties, or they will destroy our solar system. Jake looked at Colonel Harris. It is starting. Harris nodded. Tony, how quickly can you modify your ship's engines for maximum speed? Give. 2 hours, Tony said. But Colonel, why do we need to go fast? Because we need to reach the hidden base near Jupiter before the Zephyrians realize what is happening. The Starforge is already charging its weapons. We have perhaps 18 hours before Earth is destroyed. The next few hours passed in a blur. Tony worked frantically to boost the ship's engines while Lisa studied the technical data about Zephyrian weapons. Ryan plotted the fastest course to Jupiter, and Jake tried to accept that his entire understanding of the galaxy had been wronged out as the Wanderer raced toward Earth. Harris explained the final phase of Project Phantom. Hidden bases throughout the solar system would coordinate their attacks on the Starforge. The Zephyrian superweapon would be destroyed, using the same quantum disruption technology that had eliminated their fleets. What about the Zephyrian crews? Jake asked. The Starforge has thousands of people aboard. Harris was quiet for a moment. Captain, the Zephyrians have conquered hundreds of worlds and killed billions of innocent people. They have shown no mercy to anyone who opposed them. That does not answer my question. You are right, Harris admitted. We will offer them a chance to surrender. But if they refuse, we will do what we must to protect the galaxy. Jake understood. War was never clean or simple. Sometimes good people had to make terrible choices to protect others. As Earth came into view, Jake could see Zephyrian ships gathering near the edge of the solar system. The Starforge was a massive structure, larger than most space stations. Energy was already building around its main weapon. All stations, Harris said into his communication device. This is Colonel Harris. Operation Silence is now active. All ghost ships move to attack positions. On screens throughout the ship, Jake watched as 12 invisible ships moved toward the Starforge. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a fleet, but they would need to work together to penetrate the superweapon's defenses. Captain Morrison. Harris said, "Would you like to send the message that ends the Zephyrian Empire?" Jake looked at his crew. They all nodded. This was their choice to make. Jake activated the ship's communication system and sent a message on all frequencies, in every known language. This is Captain Jake Morrison of Earth. The Zephyrian Dominion has threatened to destroy innocent worlds and kill billions of people. Earth cannot allow this to happen. We call upon the Zephyrian forces to surrender immediately. The response came quickly. Supreme Commander Thekmer's voice was full of rage. Humans, you will pay for your attacks on our fleets. The Starforge will reduce your pathetic planet to dust. Then you have made your choice, Jake said. He nodded to Harris. All ghost ships, Harris commanded. Fire. 12 invisible beams struck the Starforge simultaneously. The massive structure began to dissolve, its quantum-bonded hull breaking apart at the molecular level. The Zephyrian crews had